What's going on, y'all? Sean here. Hope y'all doing well. So my voice is still a little out. It's improving. I'm not having to push as hard, but I'm still kind of having to push a little bit. I'm not gonna make this long. But yeah, transform your physical health live is where I answer. excuse me, your health and fitness questions live, based on my experience as a personal trainer and my own experience just training myself and learning about health and fitness and stuff. Um, so what I want to talk about, I don't have a lot of information on it yet, but I heard a podcast. Now, but let me preface it with this. You may or may not have heard about the harm of seed oils in our diet. When I talk about seed oils, I'm talking about pretty much the oils that you see in most all processed foods. You know, it'll usually say like vegetable oil or canola oil or cottonseed oil or maybe sunflower oil or soybean oil, something like that. Um, and what I've learned over time is that those oils raise inflammation levels, in particular because they're high in omega 6 fatty acids. I mean, now I'll say this too: omega 6 fatty acids are not unhealthy. The main thing is it's like a lot of other things in our body. You have to have the right balance of omega 6s and omega 3s, perhaps even omega 9s. I saw something about some other omega 9s. I don't know anything about that, but it's really about balance. And the argument has been that over time we've had way more omega 6 fatty acids in our diet than omega 3s, and so that balance is kind of disrupted. Think of it also as the whole issue, one of the bigger issues behind the high blood pressure. A lot of times we're like, you're eating too much salt, um, but it's about a sodium potassium balance, and it could be contributed to the fact that maybe folks are eating more salt than they need to. It is, I'm sure that contributes, but it's not just that. It's also a lack of potassium. And so, like the thing is with omega 6s versus omega 3s, it's contributed to by an abundance of omega 6s in the diet, but it's also contributed to by a lack of omega 3s in the diet, and that can't be ignored. Now, that's a whole nother topic. So, anyhow, what I heard in this podcast, and this Diary of a CEO, a podcast I listen to sometimes, the lady on there was saying that seed oils are not they're not harmful. So that was kind of shocking to me. Um, but in particular, so I'm gonna look more so into that because what I've learned has said contrary. However, what she said, to dial down a little bit more, she said that um back in the day the issue was with hydrogenated seed oils or partially hydrogenated seed oils. And in case you don't know what hydrogenation is, it's a process by which hydrogen is forced into the fat for the purpose of stabilization, to make that fat kind of like to help to make whatever food that is put in more shelf stable. But the process of hydrogenation creates what we know as excuse me, trans fat. This fat that lays down very easily in the arteries, this fat that does raise inflammation levels. Um, it's just very harmful, very very harmful. But she said that those fats were the issue, but they're no longer present. Now, I don't agree with that. Now, I will say that the lady was, I think, British. So maybe, and I'm gonna do some research if I have time today, maybe it's that they're removed from British foods. But I'm almost 100% certain that's not the case here. And here's the deal. So you probably remember maybe 15, 20 years ago, there was this big uproar about trans fats. They had been kind of more so paid attention to. These trans fats are causing heart attacks and all these other kind of health problems. These hydrogenated fats are like just destroying human health. And so a lot of companies start removing that stuff out of their foods, because of the backlash. But here's the thing, they didn't necessarily totally remove them. If you look at the Food and Drug Administration's definition of like how they do with food labels, and I have to look it up to confirm this. But I believe that if you have less than a half a gram of trans fat in your food, then you can say that it has none. And so they can say zero trans fats, even though there actually is some in there. So it's basically them rounding down or whatever in their favor, but it's not really accurate. So the way that you know that there's still trans fatty acids in or trans fats in your food is by looking at the ingredients list and seeing if it says hydrogenated oil or partially hydrogenated oil. If it says that, it doesn't matter whether or not the little thing that says trans fat says 0 grams. It's not true. There is some in there. There is some. Now, the big question for me is confirming that, maybe it's no trans fats in foods across seas, but I'm almost certain it still is here. I don't think it's changed. I think it just became less and kind of like people lessen trans fats, but they didn't stop using them altogether. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that overseas because, as we know, there's a lot of things we do in America that folks will not do with their food overseas. People tend to be a little bit more like not cool with all the additives and things that they put in our food here. 'Cause we just kind of go along our merry way. A lot of times we're just naive to it all as Americans, and folks just do whatever they want to do. But like, I, I don't know. I don't want to comment too much on that, but I don't like that. I don't like that. But anyhow, that's something I'm gonna do some research on, and I just leave you with this: since there are no questions here today, read your labels, know what's on the label, know what the stuff actually means. Growing up, I didn't know to care, but now I care to know because I'm not just interested in a food that has a particular texture or taste because that's not all there is to food. That's not even the first reason for food. But bottom line is very important to companies. And I'm not necessarily saying it's nefarious all the time. However, if you're gonna be in control of your health, you gotta know what you're putting in your body. You can't just eat. I mean, you shouldn't just eat stuff because it's destroying you. And so then it's like you're making it inevitable that you have to go to the hospital for some sort of something called some major health problem. It's just the truth. All right. I'll let y'all go. I want to go ahead and look this up like I was talking about. I hope y'all have a great day and I hope y'all tune in tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.